Hey there, and good morning from AlphaWolfTrading.com. This is Tim, and coming at you with this morning's pre-market prep. Going to take a look at a few stocks to keep an eye on potentially this morning, but we saw our first signs of some potential weakness in the markets. And if you got my video from the weekend of stocks to watch for the upcoming week, one of my concerns was the fact that we were extremely overbought in a lot of different sectors, and I was concerned that even if we had really good earnings, we may not see that really translate over into the markets. And it's kind of what's played out this week, right? We've had some tremendous earnings. However, a lot of stocks ran up already into those numbers, so it was kind of priced into the stock, and we haven't had any volatility. Saw a report out that volatility lowest levels since like 1929, or actually I think ever, right? Lowest volatility levels. So a tremendous amount of complacency out there. And yesterday we got a little peak of a little bit of a sell-off. I mean, there wasn't anything specific that you could point to. There was a report from J.P. Morgan that put a little weakness, or had expressed some concerns, and you know we saw a little bit of a pullback, and we're seeing a little bit of a follow through this morning as we await GDP. Um, and we'll see what the GDP report says, but this could be the beginning of I'm not suggesting anything like 1929, but we could see the beginning of a long overdue correction. And look, we've been conditioned so far to buy every dip over the last 9 years, and at some point, buying the dip isn't going to work. And all I'm suggesting here is be careful. Be really, really careful out there. And if you got some good profits in your portfolio, your long-term hold portfolio, you have some really good profits. Look, this is not a terrible time to maybe lock in some gains. I'm not suggesting to sell everything you have in your portfolio, but take a look, and if you've got some really good gains that you've made, lock some of them in, and build some powder on the sidelines. If we do get any kind of significant correction, you're going to have the powder dry to be able to pick up some names at a good discount price, right? Because when fear does come into the marketplace, we tend to overshoot on the downside, just like we do overshoot on the upside. So just something to keep in mind, and let's see how today plays out. So BLRX, one of the pro members. I do this live for the pro members as well, and one of the pro members brought this up, and actually had somebody mentioned this to me yesterday as well. So getting some eyeballs on it, and I do find it kind of decent looking chart here. It's testing the 200-day moving average, testing the $1 holla. Just broke over this trend line. Now it's a little bit of a sloppy setup here. They just got an investment, so they don't need to raise capital. Some decent volume. This could be a decent day trading opportunity on a break over the $1 holla with some real volume. Right now, that seems to be acting as resistance, and maybe on a pullback to like 90 cents, you look to see if that holds as support for or maybe even down to the 20 and the 50 EMA, right? 20-day simple moving average down to 89.90 cents. See if that's an area for a potential bounce. You look to take out a buck and go up and test close this gap at around a buck 10 or so, right? And maybe you put your stop just below 80 cents. So you're risking 10 cents to make 20 cents. It's a decent risk reward, potential day trading opportunity, worth keeping an eye on it. I do find the setup kind of interesting. AGRX had some news this morning. Had an interesting look on the daily time frame. Just broke over the 200-day, pulled back, tested, bounced I believe I had some kind of we had some earnings news. I think there was something else that happened here with this AGRX. Could be a day trading opportunity. 17 million shares in the float. Uh, Not a big short interest, but worth keeping an eye on this one. You see if it got a pop up to about $5.30, which is where we got some price resistance, right? And also have a trend line to contend with just over that. So, um, not a lot of volume in pre-market, right? Just a little bit of a pop there, pulling back, potentially a day trading opportunity. Maybe let's see. Right now, you got a pivot at $5. Also have a pivot at 475. Um, if this gets any kind of significant volume, maybe a day trading opportunity there. Looks like we have a gap to fill on this one as well. Actually, a gap might have just filled. But kind of an interesting setup there. Potential day trade. I wouldn't. I would probably wouldn't hold that one overnight unless it was just for some lotto shares after banking a little bit and locking it away. But maybe look at an entry, say around 475 or so, maybe even 450. Right, put your stop just below 425, just below the 200 day. Worth keeping an eye on it. See if it gets any kind of volume today. IMGN. This is on our list from last week of stocks to watch. Had earnings this morning. Earnings looked good. It was a pretty good beat, and they also raised, which was pretty good. Um, Got a pop up to about $7 this morning and has pulled back. And $7 is an area where we do have some price congestion, so not a big shock there that we found some resistance there. Pulled back to 644. Now it's back up to about $6.70. So looking at this one potentially for a day trade as well, right? We got a pivot at 655 and then another one at $6.30. So maybe on a pullback to 630, see if that holds a support. It's at top of this trend line right here. We pull back to there, see if we get a bounce, go back up and retest that $7 holla. Look for some volume here. Not a lot of volume in pre-market, but I do like IMGN, the look of it quite a bit. I mean, it came right down to the 50-day, bounced. So you have some potential support here. If you get it, I would try to get it at six, as close to $6.30 as possible, and then maybe put your stop just below $6. But worth keeping an eye on IMGN. IPI, which full disclosure, I do have a position, and I actually just sold some off, locked some profit, and I am holding some shares. They have earnings coming up on the 2nd. There's been a lot of fund buying recently, and there was just some more done on the 26th and 27th. Pretty significant amount of shares. Flirting with the 310 break, right? Or $3 hollow, the 3 roll. Uh, Probably waiting on earnings. It is overbought, but those shares that were just purchased by the funds were bought in the 290 $2.90 range. So maybe they know something. Who knows? We'll see. This could be waiting on earnings, but a smaller float, 77 million shares in the float. I think this one is worth keeping a pretty close eye on. Could get a day trading opportunity, a little scalp opportunity out of it. Could be a higher risk swing. Maybe you look to start a position, and I know, listen, you don't want to hold through earnings, right? But maybe if you're looking at this as maybe a long-term prospect, you take a starter, just a little lotto position, like buying a lottery ticket, and you know, hold it into earnings. See if maybe those two funds are onto something. But higher risk swing, or long-term hold position, and potentially a day trading opportunity as well. So keep an eye on IPI. I do like the setup on it. All right, cool. Had some news this morning. I can't remember what the news was. I think they got a patent or something. Yeah, they got a patent. Um, it was getting a little bit of action in pre-market, not a significant amount. 16,000 shares or so have traded hands in pre-market. It only traded 32,000 shares yesterday, right? 2.8 million shares in the float, super tiny. Has a tendency to be a pop and flopper. You can see by these candles here. So this is not one that you want to chase, right? Really, we don't want to chase anything, especially if the market is weak. Okay, GDP just came out, and looks interesting here. Hold on a second. I'll get to that in a minute. Let's finish with Cool. So Cool, you know, potentially some support down here in this 325 area. That's where we've got the 50-day moving average. You got a pivot on uh, Cool at 376 and $3.60 and 352. So um, maybe look for a pullback to 375 or so, or 350. See if there's some support there. See if we get any kind of real volume. Could be a day trading, scalp opportunity in KOOL. Do not chase it though, right? They just did an offering in May, which priced at $3.14. So you don't have to worry about there being an offering being done. It's already been done. So worth keeping an eye on it for potential day trading opportunity. Just do not chase it and recognize the fact that it's very thin. Make sure you got some volume, right? You got to have some volume so that you can get in and out. Play it size appropriate. CY, nice earnings report last night, flirting with the $15 holla. This is a little bit thicker of a stock, probably more of a swing or long-term hold proposition than a day trade. If you could get this thing at $13 on a pullback to this trend line, that would be the ideal entry for a swing or long-term hold. Don't know that you get that opportunity. Like I said, pretty good earnings report, popped up to about $15.32, so broke over 15, but it has pulled back. Now it's sitting right at about $15. Maybe on a pullback to 14.30 or so, there appears to be an area of support there. That could be an interesting spot, or maybe even a pullback to the 50-day moving average, somewhere around $14, $13.85. That could be an interesting spot to take for a swing or a long-term hold. So, not bad looking. I mean, it had a little bit of a pop into these earnings, so we'll see if maybe it gets a pullback. SunTrust has a $17 price target on it. Like I said, though, probably more of a swing or long-term hold than it is a day trade. First Solar had a nice earnings report come out last night. Got a good pop. Let me see where it's at right now. This does not have a big float. Only 80 million shares in the float. 14% short interest. Popped up to about $52 and has pulled back. Pulled back to 48.50 and now back up to 49.80. So flirting with the $50, right? $50 holla. Have some resistance in the $52 range. This could be interesting on a pullback to, the breakout point, right? 47 bucks. What do we got? We've got a pivot at 47.17 and another pivot at, it appears to be $48. maybe look for that pullback to 48, see if that holds the support for a bounce. Could be a day trading opportunity in there. Don't chase it. Sirius Satellite Radio, big thick stock, broke out yesterday. This is a big spot that it broke out over $5.50. What was resistance could become support, and that would be a tremendous area, I think, to get it for a long-term hold position. I don't know that you're going to get that opportunity to get it at 550. It did have a pretty big pop. It did pierce the upper Bollinger Band. It is big, thick stock. We'll see if it gets any follow through today, but it's pulling back a little bit down to 575. I think you get close into the 560 range, 550. I think it's an interesting spot to start building a position, take a position for a long-term hold consideration. It was a good earnings report, and this was a big, big spot to try and get through, to finally get through. Lower left, upper right, that's the weekly time frame. Good looking chart. On a pullback to 550, I think that could be an ideal entry there. UCTT testing all-time highs after a good earnings report. Now, it had a good run into this earnings report. It did try to gap this last night. Let me see what it's doing, if it's getting any follow through. Got up to about 26.50, and right now it is at $26. Right, so basically right here at this area of potential price resistance, right, had a little bit of trouble here before. That's where we're at again. Blue skies. If the market's struggling, this may struggle, right? This could be an interesting play on a pullback to the 50-day moving average. It's only got 29 million shares in the float. If it takes out 26 with conviction, you could have a good day trading opportunity there. Don't chase it, play it size appropriate because of the small float, but this one is pretty interesting and it could be worth keeping an eye on. Twitter, I had the big sell-off yesterday. Jack Dorsey bought shares at $16.50 in April. Let's see what it's doing here this morning. I think on a pullback to 650 or even down to the $16 area, I'm likely going to take a starter position for a long-term hold. I think this, the numbers were good. It was the monthly average users that was an issue, but I think this is an overdone reaction and looking for a potential bounce in Twitter, but I'd like to see some more weakness. I'd like to see it continue to pull. So get down into that $16.50, $16 area. I'm likely going to start building a position in Twitter for the long-term hold. Let me see if all right, GNC. So I just sold actually yesterday. I had this as a swing. I sold a portion of it on the way up, and I got it in the 7 and change area. I sold a portion of it on the way up, and I sold the rest of it yesterday at about $10.50. It actually surpassed all my targets, and I went ahead and sold it. And then I also, took it for a little day trade opportunity, and I'm looking again for maybe another day trading opportunity. Pull back to the 200-day, somewhere around $10 even. See if that holds as support for a bounce, or so maybe in the 950 area, right? Pull back to the 950 area, maybe get a bounce there. What was resistance becomes support. They had a great earnings report yesterday. Big volume, huge short interest, 47% short interest. Worth keeping an eye on this GNC, especially if it gets some good volume again today. Look for a red to green move. Could present a nice day trading opportunity. There are a couple other stocks that I had on my list here, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up and get it out so that people can get prepared for the day. I don't want to get this out too late. If you like what I do here, and you'd like to get the stocks to watch video sent directly to your email, Go to alphawolftrading.com. I put it out every Saturday or Sunday of stocks to watch for the upcoming week. Be careful out there, right? Let's see what the market does. This GDP, actually, let's see what the market's doing after the GDP number just hit. Take a quick look at that. Okay, so gold gapping a little bit off of that GDP number. Oil, we're getting a little bit of a bounce. So maybe it sounds like it came in a little bit hot. S&P 500, we're pulling back, gapping down. NASDAQ, we're gapping down. That NASDAQ taking a hit off of Amazon after disappointing a little bit. And the dollar showing some weakness here. So, looks like we're going to get some follow through of the weakness. Let's see if it stays that way. Make sure you have a good plan, right? Make sure you have a good plan. Don't chase anything. I mean, don't chase anything, and keep an eye on things like LABD, which is the bear ETF for the biotechs. If biotechs break down, keep an eye on LABD. Look at UVXY and TVIX. If you start to get some real fear in the marketplace, right? If we start to get some fear out there, you could see a pop. These had a pop yesterday, but it was a pop and a flop. So that's why I say don't chase them. They're good day trading vehicles, but do not chase them. Look for a good intraday setup. TVIX, TZA, another one to keep an eye on. If the IWM, the small caps, roll over, TZA could get a trend line break, could get a pop up into maybe that 50-day moving average. So keep an eye on some of those. And that's it. Have a fantastic weekend. Be careful. Good luck trading today, and I'll see y'all next week.